big blind versus hijack, and looking to take the initiative here with the jacks. I think
this potentially two players that I played previously, being both Estonians,
or both claiming to be from Estonia. We know Caspar is really a true Frenchman.
Both right in the flag of Estonia at the moment, at least, but let's see what spot Alexi chooses here now with the fives. Of course, knowing that Caspar might be able to play back at him with a lot of hands, just defending the big blind, but this time he actually has a hand.
I'm interested to see if there's any other option than call here. I think versus the sizing 3.5x, it's not as big as it could be. So I think we're just going to see quite a natural call. I wonder if Alexi here is just balancing his timing in some senses, you know, setting up the dynamic, as I mentioned in the previous hand. Just making sure that he doesn't allow his opponent to pick up anything.
Yeah.
And it is Queen 10-10. So interested to see what Caspar will do to start here. We're not going to be having a 3-street hand, of course, with the emergence of trip 10s and the overcard in the form of the Queen. Do we want to defend our checking range by starting things off with the check right now? And that's what he does. I think he's still going to have some pretty strong hands here and be fairly protected. Even a hand like aces, you know, at this stack depth, do you really want to just go bet, jam or something like that? I'm not sure. So it's nice to play a lot of checks out of position. Alexei, however, with his fives, he's quite happy to clear out overcards. If his opponent was bluffing from the big blind with a hand like King 6, Queen, not Queen, but Ace X, that's bricked but may or may not have two overs and some kind of backdoor equity. Just looking to charge that right now and keep his range uncapped as well, so that he has options going down the line. The king on the turn.
Not the dream card for Caspar now.
No, it does turn an open ender at least, but again, it's another awkward turn, and it is the hard as well. So still, two combinations of King 10 suited there. You've got some hands like Ace 10 off versus the 3.5x. Maybe he would have folded that pre, but he's definitely going to have a decent amount of 10x, and he's going to have improved to some King X now as well, in the form of potentially some King Jack type holdings.
Now then, 5-7 in the pot already, and Alexei.
This is really interesting.
Yeah.
He's just saying, I just really don't think you're going to have enough 10x here, and he feels like he's got the advantage, and I agree with him. He's going to have hands like 10-9 suited, Jack 10 suited, Queen 10 suited, King 10 suited, Ace 10 suited.
Oh, and gets him off the jacks.
His opponent is almost never going to 3-bet 10x from the big blind in that spot, out of position, and that is the power of poker and just reading your opponent. So Nico here, jacks under the gun.
Next at the minimum 40 raise, and Paul 9 folding. How about Jeff? Sevens, cutoff position.
Yeah, so we just saw the sevens go 3-bet, but this time versus earlier position, and a player less incentivized to open wider, in the form of Nico, who's one of the short/medium stacks with this structure. He's under average. Jeff does find appeal here in the cutoff with his 30 big blinds, looking for a 7. Yep. And Caspar out the way.
No 7s folded as far as I've seen, so there are a few outs in the deck for Jeff. They can find one. Not at this flop.
Ooh.
And Nico. Of course, there are 2 overcards, but flopping the open ender, so not the worst of flops for his jacks.
Yeah, not too bad.
maybe also a flop for Jeff not to spend any more chips on. Easy fold to the aggression of Nico. Most likely, you never know with Jeff, right?
Yeah, you never know. He's got a pair. I like this check from Nico. Just
allowing Jeffrey to.
Yeah, potentially. Just gain a lot of information. You protect your range. It's very easy for Jeff to have a lot of hands that do very well on this board. I think Jeff's range is going to look something like a lot of suited broadways, a lot of hands like maybe ace jack off, king 10 suited, queen 10 suited, jack 10 suited, king queen off, king queen suited, king jack suited. So there's all of those, maybe some pairs in there as well, and then some ace-x suiteds, and that's pretty much it. So that does pretty well as a range here on this board. And it's not like Nico doesn't have those hands as well. He does, of course, but he's naturally going to have a few more whiffs on a board like this, because he might open some wider in the form of the ace-x, which do have an over and a gutter, but they're not exactly super strong. So Jeffrey does take a stab in position, goes for half pot here, and you can almost see a little bit of discomfort starting to spread across the face of the fin. Oh! Jeff, out of nowhere, spikes the 7 of clubs, and this is why. Sometimes you do find the aggression. He's still got 2 outs to glory. Let's see what sizing it goes for here. So 495 remaining, 2 stack to pot ratio, which would mean 2 bets of around about third pot would play for all the chips. 2/3 pot, sorry.
And as you can see, Nico by no means dead in this pot, despite Jeff hitting his 7, a lot of straight outs, and of course the jacks as well. So this could go for an interesting one. Already 250 in the middle. Jeffrey has almost 500 behind now. It's counting up half of that stack perhaps. No, bringing it back. What do you say, George, about the sizing we want to go with here now with 500, 250 in the middle?
Yeah, I don't think we're betting hands like Queen Jack or Jack 10, you know, like there's none of these like weird mergy types of hands. We're basically just saying, I think at this stage that we've got 2 pair plus. I mean, even a hand like King Jack is kind of weird versus under the gun, because he could definitely check call a hand like aces or ace king, which would be natural. So I like 175 here, 160 kind of range. Yeah, 145, fair enough. So if he gets called, it's going to be just under 550 with 350 remaining. Seems a very reasonable sizing.
Yeah. Waiting for Nico to stay in. Almost half pot, just over half pot bet. Nico not holding the jack of clubs either, so
yeah, I'm not sure if that's good or bad. Yeah, that's true. He does unblock some draws, but those draws are gonna have shared outs with him, I guess, right? So it's like, are we just up against a hand like?
Wow! All right. Good enough to fold it.
That's bad news for Nico when he says that.
Yeah, I
right?
didn't want to hear that, says Nico.
He says, wow, this is a really brave play. I wasn't expecting Nico to find this.
It is a call, and it's a showdown, and Jeff will see that he's well ahead, but he's not locked it up yet. Nico has many outs, 9 of them.
Wow,
only
what a
1-9 is
play.
folded, so this will go for an interesting river just soon. And you see that Jeffrey is all in. He's the one risking his seat in this tournament. And river is blank 3.
Absolute Brickovich.
And a full double up for our man from Canada.
You have more.
Yeah, you're... Oh, I thought he was out.
Yeah, he's got about 7.5 big blinds to spin.
Yeah.
He went for a really brave move there.
Yeah.
With the jacks.
And look at Elias.
Yeah, so Alexi opening ace-7 offsuit. It's a bit of a disrespectful open in terms of the table, I think he feels like. He really wants to push the boat out here, treating himself to the ace-7
Yeah.
+2 open.
No, he's gotten more aggressive now when he's in the leopard shirt and when he was
exactly.
just with
It's
the
kind
hoodie.
of brought out his inner demon.
Play the shirt, and Nico with waking up with ace-10. Normally you would have liked this position, but
this is
with
really
the
just sloppy.
3-bet, he knows that.
This is really sloppy, I think. It's just kind of like, I'm over it, you know?
Yeah.
And you still have playability with 8 big blinds. It's gone +2 open, cut off 3-bet. Like, yeah, I just don't think ace-10 is going to be a good enough take there personally. But, you know, with a 1 hour clock, there's still chance to spin that stack. But he thinks otherwise.
So, it's all in a call then. It's Nico that is all in with the ace-10. Elias covering him. So battle of the Finns to have Nico stay in the tournament or not. And look at that for a flop for both players. Open-ended for Nico. Flush draw for both, with Elias with the better one, of course. And Elias well up in front, but still some outs for Nico. Queen is not on them, so
Yeah,
an ace or an
he
8.
loses the king now as well.
Oh,
is
flush for
club.
both, but
Yeah.
Elias with the better one. Not the 8 for the straight. What do you say?
For the straight flush.
Straight flush is the word.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not to be. So Nico is our next player eliminated.
Wow. And with the table image that Alexi has been curating here, this is just exactly what you dream of as a loose aggressive player.
Yeah.
Just picking up a big hand at a big spot like this, and he's going to go for the 5x squeeze. Yuri there with the queen jack kind of floating pre-flop. He's going to be out of the way for sure. Is Caspar going to be able to consider calling or even 4-bet jamming here versus Alexi, who's just such a tough opponent? I really wouldn't blame him hijack versus this fairly cap-looking button peel, and Alexi taking some initiative here. And 8x doesn't interact with any of the bluffs, right? So he's going to have some one high and low kind of stuff. He's going to peel. That's a very interesting play.
660 behind.
Yeah, so they go to 1 SPR here, and he's just kind of going to play the let's hope for a great board kind of thing.
Yeah.
Also allows the bluffs to realize that extra bit of equity.
Look at the first card.
Holy moly, 8 in the window. Caspar can't believe his luck. Jesus.
Was that him trying to disguise the...
I've got the 8.
Some heavy breathing going on as well here now.
The players are mic'd up and someone's having a field day with it.
Yeah.
So 125.
Should have maybe have a pulse meter on him as well.
Yeah,
hitting
the
the 8
beats per minute.
Yeah.
After hitting the 8, I'm sure it would have skyrocketed.
So he went small bet from Alexi, 125, and a call from Caspar, and a 6 on the turn. Doesn't change anything, of course.
Yeah, and I think that this small bet on the flop just is now going to see just an all-in on the turn.
Yeah.
For 535.
Alexi is likely to just put Caspar all in now.
Yeah, there's obviously no getting away with it. Oh, wow, he goes for check. Okay, so, I mean, aces is the hand that needs the least protection.
Caspar now then to maybe represent just a flush draw or a 10, and betting against Alexei, most likely grabbing some chips as well. Those were the 140.
This is an interesting check, I think.
Of course, again, Alexei not having the ace of diamonds.
Yeah, it's very awkward on how to range your opponent when they have a flat in a spot that you just don't really think that they should ever have any flats. So what's he going to have? Jacks probably always goes in pre. 10s, you'd feel the same. So maybe 9s, 8s, ace queen suited, king queen suited. This queen probably goes in pre as well. So it's like maybe a couple of suited broadways and a couple of pairs, and like that's pretty much it. And then the other 2 aces, you know. So it's like,
yeah.
Kind of bizarre to figure out, and that's why Alexi is a bit perplexed here and taking a little longer than usual, just really trying to work out what the hell this guy's range looks like. And he is going to play check call on the turn. And the bluffs, I guess, is going to be hands like King Jack of Spades, King Queen of Spades. 6 on the river, meaningless, no diamond. And we do see a third pot remaining. And it's just a huge caller at this point.
Taking a bit of time, Alexi, but surely he's not just checking this one, or?
Yeah, I think he's thinking if my opponent's like has some kind of ace-10 suited or king-10 suited somehow, whether they're going to check that hand back, and should I just lead all in here? Or like a hand like 9s. We know that Caspar's going to be all in just because he's got 8s and he's got clear value, but how strong does this look when he at 535 behind with about 900 in there on the turn goes for the super block?
Yeah.
On a board where there is some danger, not really present in the ranges, of course, but
Are there any folds then? If Caspar,
I mean, if
this one
Alexi finds a fold here, it would
would
be
be surprising, right?
I call.
Yeah.
It's one call.
yeah, he
Quickly
snaps
calls
it.
and gets the bad news of the 8s.
Yeah, he's like 10s, 8s, or some kind of yeah. It's tough to think what a bluff would be there. Like, it's just such a narrow range pre-flop.
Jeff, though, with the 7s again. For sure the most common pair on this table today. And he's been lucky with them once. Turned some trips earlier, and we got a full double up with these 7s. So
Took a stab at King Queen 10 versus one of the Finns that was eliminated in the hand after turn 7 and got check jammed on by the pocket jacks.
and Elias defending with just 1 7 and a 6, so well behind. Let's see what he can make of this. Oof.
Oh, there it is. The magic 7s.
Yeah, they're
Always
everywhere,
come in
right?
7. Is it going to be the flop turn or river? And Elias, certainly won't be going anywhere for one bet, I think, with the 7, backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, blind versus blind as well. You know, Jeff is going to have some hands like King 10, King 9, potentially. Yeah, 9x, 10x. Some random air.
Was for the half pot, 100k.
Yeah, Jeff loves half pot. That's his been one of his main sizings in all sorts of different situations.
And the online pro, Elias of Finland, comes with the peel.
Yeah, just too strong to fold the flop. Let's see if... Oh, that's a cold one.
Wow.
That
Locks
is
it up for
cold
Jeff,
one.
but it's trouble for Elias.
Yeah, I mean, 5-4 gets there. But really, nothing else. 9-5 as well, I guess. But not an awful lot else to worry about. Jeff going with the cheeky check. Is he going to go for a check jam on the turn, or what's his game plan here? That's interesting. I thought he'd just be betting. You know, when you've got the bottom set, you unblock all the middle pairs, the top pairs, the jacks and the 8s, of course. So it's like,
Surely Elias is betting this one to
yeah, he's gonna
protect against flush straight draws.
He's gonna think Christmas has come early.
Yeah.
That he's gonna be up against maybe a hands like 10s or 9s or some sort of King 8, Ace 8.
$280, big one from Elias.
I think Jeff's just gonna shove here. What do you reckon?
I would say he'll take the safer route. I don't think I think he's. You can see him earlier when he had his 7s. He's like, I'm not good enough to fold this set. And I think he's seen like, demons in this.
No,
like he might be up
bed.
against a 9-10 or something, or like a 5-4, whatever. I think it's like.
There are 3 straights available, but I think.
So I don't think this is just Hollywooding that's going on right now. I think he's actually.
Like you're right. I think he's genuinely a bit concerned. What's it to be, Jeff?
Eyeing down the stack of Elias as well, seeing that they're almost even in chips as well. He does go for the jam, though.
Go for the jam.
I don't think Elias expected that one, the check jam.
No, he looks a bit shook up, actually, doesn't he? He's like, what?
Yeah.
Ooh, comes for the call, and this is going to be bad news for him.
Yeah.
He's drawing dead.
Just stone dead on the turn. Jeff smacking his
celebrations.
Hands together, thinking, wow, he's got no outs.
Lucky 7s, yes, sir. And it pairs on the river as well, so locking it up with the boat as well. The 7s does it again for Jeff.
Irrelevant river card.
Yeah.
And I think Elias just thinking there that Jeff opening blind versus blind, he might check jam a hand like an overpair or a jack sometimes, just scared of all the flush draws and straight draws out there. And just felt like compelled that he had to call it off with the 2-pair there. It's a real cooler blind versus blind, set versus 2-pair.
Interesting spot here. Now, I was actually thinking I quite like a limp because sometimes maybe we can have some limp jams. I don't think this is one of the spots where we'll be limp jamming, but
yeah, you can do all sorts here. Obviously, blind v blind, it's kind of like everything's a bit of a mix. Opening with these types of hands doesn't make an awful lot of sense. By limping, you get checkbacks from lots of worse Queen X and 10X, right? So you get to sort of dominate that, and it's almost not really that strong enough to ISO in some ways.
I was wondering whether part of his plan was maybe to be limp 3-betting here, but he does just go for the call.
Yeah, again, I just think the hand plays quite nicely as a limp call because you do keep in some of the like 10-3, 10 deuces sometimes used, maybe a queen deuce, queen 3 as an ISO, so keeping that in is nice.
It's a great flop for Mindaugas with the top at trips. Hard to get paid, but probably should face a C-bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A tiny bet here.
Very small C-bet.
Asking the question, really.
And naturally, we're not going to be scaring our opponent off here. We just want to be like, oh, well, I guess I have to call this small bet, see what happens on the turn.
Frequency says I must peel with my...
I must peel with my jack high. Oh, sigh.
Jack 9, 1 club.
And it'll be interesting to see if Oramas continues the aggression on the turn. Because one assumes if he does, he is going to be sizing up.
Yeah, let's see if we get any kind of spice ball turn cards like the 9, the queen, the king, the jack. There's so many interesting ones. No, just the cold hard deuce. The ducky on the turn, and it's top boat for Mindaugas. Aramas here. It's awkward actually turn card for Mindaugas.
It's almost like we have a little bit too much here.
Yeah, and the problem is you're just going to face a check back so often, and Aramis is going to think like, what can I even get to fold at this point that check called me on the flop? He actually has some pot share, I think, with the king high.
Interesting thought on the river. So do we lead the river for, say, 20%, 10 to 20% to try and get those crying calls from king high, ace high?
I don't think your opponent is ever going to reopen the betting here when the turn goes check. Like there's just...
but that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying with the queen 10 here, we lead 10 to 20% to try and get some crying calls from those king high, ace high hands.
Well, you got to think about how wide is my opponent ISOing pairs pre-flop for value. So like, are they raising 7s, 8s, 9s? You know, and I think that's could be a decent part of the range, conceivably.
For sure.
So I think we want to just target that kind of portion.
And he has gone big, indeed, to try and target those kind of hands.
I like this. Yeah, exactly. You're just going to have a lot of like 9-8 of spades, Jack 9, it's like these random hands that are having a backdoor flush draw, or like Queen 9 of Queen 9 of spades, but like Jack 8 of spades, things like that. That's where the bluffs are going to come from. Maybe like 4-5 of clubs.
Yeah, it's a lot of club combos.
Yeah, but you use the lower ones, right? Because you don't want to interact with the higher clubs. So yeah, 4-5 of clubs, 7-6 of clubs, and then those failed backdoor spade type things. Maybe some stubborn. I mean, King High has a bit of showdown.
Yeah, it's a very, very tricky spot with King High. He's certainly considering flicking the call in.
King High is a bluff for Mindaugas. It's tough to say. It's just got maybe a little bit too much showdown.
Very tricky hand here. Very tricky spot with the board texture as it is.
Yeah, and this is the beauty of blind versus blind poker. It's just wide range versus wide range.
Yeah.
And it's a guessing game, like you can somewhat define your opponent's range by now, but at the same time, there is a bit of a mystery. Like, do they float these hands on the flop? Do they actually bluff those?
He does
on the
flick in
river?
the call as well. Great size.
And RMS gets shown the absolute stones, or as good as.
Do you think Mindaugas is going to be surprised when he looks back at the hand and sees what he was called down by? Because like you say, I think
he's going to feel respected as a player.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
It's the two Lithuanians with the 10-9 off. This time Ignas, you for sure will be calling here. And he does elect to limp blind versus blind. He's fairly evenly stacked with Roberto, who's actually got him out chipped, and he's going to go for the ISO in position. Let's see what the sizing is. I think that's going to be quite important. 3x probably not enough to shift Ignas out of the hand.
Yeah,
with
they
this,
had just about this change an orbit ago or so, playing against each other with the same limp raise call.
Yeah, building the dynamic. Roberto taking his chance to...
gut shot for Ignas, backdoor flushes as well, and not connecting much with the board for Roberto, but was the aggressor pre-flop, so goes for the check though.
Both players with the same hand class, the gut shot and the backdoor flush draw. Let's see what happens on the turn. It's the interesting 3 of clubs, which brings an open-ender for Roberto, and now Ignas with that 10 of clubs. 2 overs, a gut shot, and a flush draw. Pretty strong hand, and seems like a very comfortable one to start firing into, and to really pounce on this rather capped looking check back range of his opponent, who's just very unlikely to be ISOing any kind of hands that make 2 pair or checking back
was
sets.
Sizing up, but don't have 450 and a quick call from Roberto.
Yeah, Roberto defending with his ace high. It's got definitely some pot share in terms of showdown value versus this type of hand. And the deuce on the river is a cheeky card, because Ignas will be thinking, well...
Of course, he knows that he can only win this one by betting, so reaching for chips, but not getting Roberto off his straight, of course.
Yeah, and he's basically saying now, depending on the sizing,
I have
tell a different story. Exactly, yeah, he's repping a flush here. He's going to have a lot of suited hands in his limp call for sure.
Unfortunately, I think he's choosing the wrong spot.
Yeah, he bets
although
pot,
going big.
and he's going to get pretty quickly called here. Roberto defending the turn, now arriving at the river with a rather disguised straight. I think that Ignas is going to perceive Roberto to have a lot of hands like 5x, 3x, some of those 1 high, 1 lows. He did just see him ISO with an 8 deuce off in a previous encounter. And Roberto just taking his time here. He loses versus hands like 9-7 suited, 7-4 suited potentially. But now he might even beat some value if Ignas. I don't think he's going to go for value with a hand like a set of 5s here on this kind of run out for this sizing. And Roberto correctly working out.
He called instantly on the turn, and he gets there on the river, so decision should be made already on the turn that it's not a flush for Ignas, but of course by the sizing of Ignas now on the river, it's a tough one. It's a big call.
If Roberto, needs to think about like what he's arriving at here when he checks back the flop, calls turn, calls river. This is just about one of the best hands he has. He's not going to have an awful lot of flushes. He might check back some clubs on the flop, worried about facing a check raise and overcommitting, but for the most part, this disguise straight is very strong here. But
Yeah, does make the call and receive the good news that his straight is good enough.
yeah,
Bluff.
and
I mean,
it's
now it's a bit uncertain what you beat me over there, but no, the 10-9 is nothing, and
just goes to
Roberto.
show how strong that bet was from Ignas, because his opponent had even improved and was still in indifference, not knowing whether he should call
yeah,
or
exactly.
not.
Yeah, I mean,
Jeff getting a bit confused as to who bet the turn there in the last one. Just a little
yeah.
sign of tiredness potentially. And he's mulling things over with the Queen 7 suited here, looking to try and get the job done of the last elimination himself, but would be a little bit of a misstep, I think. Yeah, there we go. Just find the muck. Maybe just running down the time so he gets to take that break. Ace Queen for Inea, who is the shortest stack on the table. And he will be... Ooh, could be something going on here. The Ace Jack, conventionally versus an earlier position raise, would be potentially thinking of flatting, but on this occasion, does he feel like he can 3-bet call here? He needs to think of all of the options and all of the potential trees of the pre-flop. Looking at his opponent's stack, he's going to realize that he's got just north of 20 big blinds. And just have the chips to take a thinner spot. And a shove. Aramas there with the just over 20 himself. So rifling it in with the Ace Jack, putting max pressure on the Albanian Greek here. And you can see the pained look. Despite Ace Queen being such a powerhouse hand, there's just so much ICM pressure being employed on him here. He's going to be up against a lot of hands with a lot of equity. Does have this particular hand dominated. And just a question of whether he wants to play for the play for the pay jumps or play for the win. He wants to get his hands on that ring. Probably likely to be in camp of calling. If he wants to navigate his way through the final table, he may make a other conservative fold here. Every player has a slightly different strategy in this spot. We know that Phil, who won the 5-5-5, would have been beating him in the pot here with the Ace Queen.
For sure.
He doesn't believe in ICM. He believes in playing for the win, and he knows that he's going to be up against a lot of hands that he's got dominated in this situation.
Actually, Yuri start talking now here during the hand, so quite catch what he said. So maybe
He said something like, "What do you have?" And I think he's just realized.
Some kings.
And this is
banter going on here on the final table.
yeah. When he
bubble.
says kings, he's saying he's trying to make his hand perceived to be stronger, because he knows that he's never going to be tanking with kings here. So when he says kings, it's kind of cheeky. He's trying to make his opponent think that he's stronger than he actually is.
You see my one card after your decision.
I can see after 30 minutes, don't worry.
30 minutes. 30 minutes.
If I don't call, what's the point?
We're perfect. 30 minutes, you will be out of here.
But you're interesting.
This is some
better
nice
than
table
you.
talk. I like this guy, Yuri.
Yeah.
Let's suppose it's this time that I am trapped.
Yeah, that's the ICM fold for you with the Ace Queen.
Okay.
3 blinds now in this pot. As Roberto put in an extra one. Will this drive the action perhaps needed to burst the final table bubble? We'll see about that one, but it's not going to be Inea that's going to try to steal the extra blind already on the table.
No, it would be a suicide shove after the raise fold with the ace queen, but Yuri will be very delighted to see some extra chips in there. Goes for the min raise.
Yeah.
Arimas folds. What's Jeff up to here in the small blind? He's got king 8. Gonna fold, get out the way. Doesn't want to get involved in the
It's
festivities.
actually in the big blind though, because
Oh, yeah.
he's fooling us. Roberto's limp. Oh, look at this mistake. Wow.
Okay, why button stay on me?
Because
Because he limped.
blind called.
I called in the dark.
He called blind.
This is a late hour mistake as well now.
So I don't
Roberto
think Yuri
done
was
nothing
aware
wrong.
of Roberto's antics. He is allowed to limp under the gun blind, of course, but it's a
Yeah.
rather bizarre situation. He's
Thought
been...
I called a, I don't know.
Okay, I don't see it, and I open raise 4 blinds, and he fold, and I show.
You thought that everybody falls.
Yeah.
I had called.
So should be allowed to play the hand with that card open, right? So Roberto will have the
Yeah, so Roberto gets a lot of
favor of seeing
information
one
now.
card, and it's the ace.
Yeah, the blind call fucks
Right,
people up.
so Yuri with the ace of clubs exposed. What a bizarre situation
Yeah.
here. Wow.
Wow.
Could get
And
interesting.
still Roberto has the king
gut
of
shot.
diamonds and the gut shot.
Yeah.
This goes for an interesting
You can put a lot of pressure on here. He's not going to have...
insta calling with the open ace shown. This is wow,
Oh,
another.
this is funny. Wow, look at
That's a
that
great
for a
game.
turn card.
Get this
One
one.
beat my ace.
And Roberto could definitely
I
do
forgot
some
about
really
what
funky
I had.
plays here, like lead over bet the turn, because
Yeah.
he knows that his opponent never has a hand better than a straight or a flush,
Wow,
of course.
look at this
And look
one.
at that for a run out. Roberto with the effective nuts, because if Yuri had aces, he'd have definitely shown the
Yeah.
other one as well, right?
Exactly right.
So I think you could do something really funky here.
Sick. This is one for the highlights, right?
Absolutely. That's 700, which is half pot, and Yuri's got to decide, what the hell do I do here? How do I deduce what is going on?
And I mean, he even got the straight on the river as well, but it's 4 diamonds on the board, so yeah.
What
Wow.
an absolutely bananas hand. Yuri with
That's
that costly
just a
tired
special
mistake.
one.
Ends up losing a few more chips, as he probably wouldn't have paid the river bet unless they had that dynamic. And I think he made a straight as well on the
Yeah,
fourth flush, right?
exactly. That's what he did, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this
It
one.
was
Kings under the gun. Maybe he wishes he would have limped this one too.
He's sick. He's a sick player.
Coming in for the 300.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't go for the
Yeah,
straddle.
well, this might be trouble now, but of course Roberto's open, but normally this is a shove still, but the short stack, but no, he's been taking the tight route. Oh,
Yeah, and he is going to go for it
Almost all
here.
in.
King, queen versus
saving
kings.
a lucky chip.
And he's whittled his stack all the way down, and it's going to be looking like we do get that elimination unless a miracle occurs here.
Yeah.
Roberto not looking to act out of turn here, just waiting to pounce on this short stack. Knows that he's got his customer. Jeffrey with the tens. Wow. What on earth?
This might be
is he
trouble.
just going to...
For Jeff, please act on this one. You know, it's a open for Roberto's, of course, opening with a lot of hands in this position.
This is a very peculiar situation to pick up the tens. He's got well over 30 big blinds here. Should be well aware that Roberto is going to be opening wide, but we don't want to just put the whole stack in here and risk running into the top of his range. So in some ways, he knows that Roberto is never going to fold to this jam. I think a really disciplined laydown is in order in this exact spot, because even though I can see that Roberto has kings, it's not a question of that. He knows that the short stack is going to collide with the big stack, right?
Yeah.
So what
if
value?
he just calls, of course, he opens up for Roberto again. They
to
would
put him
would
into the
shove
test.
with a lot of hands.
Yeah.
But Jeffson.
Wow.
Oh, goes
Oh,
for the
no.
shove.
Not gonna be able
This is gonna be bad news because Roberto can't fold this one.
Wow. What a massive
look at
situation.
A 12 million pot with 3
Yeah, and we
guys.
could get 2 bust outs here,
Yeah.
going to a final table of 8.
It's one
Been
chip.
waiting for to bust 1 player. We might have 2. We might come back to 8 players tomorrow if the Kings are to hold up in this one. And as you can see, 75% equity for Roberto.
And now,
a lot of trouble on this one now.
but we've got this kind of situation where again there's a bit of tiredness, late night antics, and he's got 1 chip behind with King Queen.
Пол, у нього королі, показав карти. Одна фішка
More
лишається
like a formality because cards are exposed before actually the last chip of Enea is getting flipped in.
Що не
But
показали. Тут
they're
одна
all in. The
фішка
cards are shown. It's
лишилася.
not going to be trouble for anyone. It's just going to be for Enea to make his decision. But he calls.
Він
Saying he
заколов.
could have folded actually. I mean, he's seen the cards, the kings, but still he.
I mean, he's done a real Herculean short stack effort, but folding just in case he made these straight or something would be ridiculous.
Король дам.
Let's see what develops here.
Just
Jeff
calling for a straight or 10, but
absolutely
he's in big trouble now.
for the 10 here. Jeff with a bit of a misstep, the tired pre-jam there, running into the top of Roberto's range, getting absolutely punished here. And it's kings versus king queen versus 10s. It could be 2 eliminations, and we could be going to a final table of 8 unless disaster strikes for Roberto.
Wow!
Come on, baby.
He finds the 10. He's been flopping a lot of sets today and yesterday, and he finds another one and only one king in the deck.
Queen on the turn, the
Save
king queen is dead. Just
Roberto.
1 king left in the deck.
Come on, baby.
We're going to be down to a final table of 9. Jeff finding it.
Not a king. Wow, celebrations, of course.
That fucking shit.
And beep.
Yeah, I think late night, it's very understood. Yeah, he's getting the
All
glaring
children are
lights on the
asleep.
way out. It's all gone absolutely ballistic here. Roberto taking one of the beats of his career, losing kings versus queen. The short stack, he was pretty much dead anyway. But Jeff flopping top set in that huge pot, developing with 10 left on the last
we
hand
should
of the
say
night.
for Roberto's fans and all you others that he still has 7 millions in his stack. So by no means is he gone from this one. He'll be back for the final table tomorrow. We did lose Enea in 10th place. And celebration with the rails for Jeffrey.